Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Attractions Group podcast. We've got a great interview with the president of the American Coaster Enthusiast. We're going to talk about some of the updates we learned from Destination D23 this past weekend, as well as some other news around the industry. And in particular, we're going to talk a little bit about log flumes and about the closure of Stanley Falls at Busch Gardens, Tampa. Welcome to the Attractions Group podcast. Hey, what's going on?
What's going on in Florida?
The weather broke. It's like 86 and not 94.
Oh,
that's so much better.
I don't think it's going to get out of the 70s today here. We've had a touch of fall. I've got the long sleeve thing going on here. Haven't had that since May, something like that. But now we're entering the fall seasons. It's great. I love it.
Yes, it is so good. So good. Okay, so Destination D23 happened this weekend. I should say I am a cast member. I'm not speaking in any way on behalf of the Walt Disney Company. I'm just repeating stuff from D23, adding in some of my opinions. We did learn, though, big news for a lot of people. Cinderella's castle is turning blue. It's reverting to its original state in blue. The pink is fading away. I don't know. There are a lot of people with very strong opinions about this. And here's something about me and this castle color. I don't care. What do you think?
I like how now there's an article that this came up in a Florida article somewhere down there that the castle is getting a new look. Retro look. I mean, it's getting a new look, but it looked like that. Now, from what I've seen with the visual on this, is it's going to look fairly similar to what it was before.
Yeah.
With the exception of the horse carriage down there, I don't think that's going to be part of that on an everyday basis. And there's probably a few more people that are going to be at the park on a consistent basis. But it's really kind of the retro look.
Yeah,
I like it. I didn't like it when they switched it to the more pink background, but at the same time, you kind of got used to it.
Yeah,
so it didn't really matter to me.
Yeah, I think to me, honestly, though, what I just wish they would do is bring back those real, physical Christmas lights, like the practical ones, instead of the projections. Those are ridiculously gorgeous.
Oh, so they don't now. I haven't been at the Christmas celebration at the Magic Kingdom. Probably, I didn't know there were projections on there. They had the icicle lights last time I was there.
Yeah, the projections are gorgeous. They're really pretty. Don't get me wrong. The projections look really good, but they're not as cool as those old lights were. However, they do the fireworks show, and they for the parade during Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party, they line up with and it's, all things considered, it is really awesome and really worth it to have the ability to do the projections for the fireworks show and stuff. But those practical lights are just so pretty. They're so bright. They're so awesome.
Yeah, I did like this. Now in my office at home, I have a picture that I took when we were at one of the extra magic hours. I think the park was open to really ridiculously late. And it's the kind where our daughters were younger and you had to lumber them over your shoulder just to get them out of there.
Right.
Dead tired or asleep, basically, which is where we would have rather been also. But at the picture, if you zoom in, I have this in my office. It has the castle and it had those lights on, the icicle lights. I don't know what they're calling, but I'd call them icicle lights. But if you zoom into a little bit to the side, it shows the time we were at the park. And it was 5 minutes after 2 a.m. that we were at the park.
Brutal.
So but yeah, the castle, I loved it when they had those lights on it. Yeah. I don't think we've been at the Magic Kingdom since or during the Christmas time. I don't know when they stopped doing that.
Maybe 2019 or something. I don't know, but that's a guess.
Okay, well, I didn't realize it had been that long since. Now we've been to Magic Kingdom a number of times since, but I apparently haven't been there during Christmas time since.
Yeah, That is, it is interesting. They do look good. On Main Street, the rest of them, they still have practical lights, just not the
Okay.
castle itself. So, but also from Destination D23, they had the exciting news that Tron will be changing colors coming up here soon. There's going to be like a red something or other. I don't know.
Okay.
That sounds interesting, I suppose. I love Tron, but the color, maybe I don't care that much
Hmm.
about that. But and trifecta from D23, there is they've told us that the Villains Land still on track. A lot of people were
Hmm.
worried it was getting canceled because we hadn't heard anything about it in a while, but we heard an update, so that's good. It's going to be Art Nouveau in its decoration style. So that's like
Okay.
you see those archways that have like curly letters, and it's like Paris.
Yeah.
The signs look like vines, but they're actually like metal. That's kind of Art Nouveau. A lot of curves, um, very Paris core. So I'm excited. I think Art Nouveau is a really underappreciated, beautiful
Hmm.
to see. So that'll be cool. That'll be cool.
Let's see. Sorry, my screen went off. So now, also in another bit of news, Busch Gardens closing Stanley Falls after 52 years. 52 years for any ride is a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
roller coasters get into their hundreds, but 52 years for a log flume that's a long time. That's in their Tampa park, which opened in 1973. That means I'm 52. So Busch Gardens is describing it as a fan favorite for generations. So there's uh, a video they posted up online. This comes from Fox 13 News, and it's log flumes are kind of a dying breed. You don't see many new ones opening. I can't remember when the last time one might have opened or that there's been an announcement for one. What's your thoughts on log flumes?
I think they're fun. I really do. I like them a lot. I think they're like when you think about a water ride, there's basically three types. There's the big boat ride, there's the log flume, and there's the river
Hmm.
raft ride. I think out of those three, easily the log flume is the most fun. Um, the big boat rides are just like good, but you get really wet. A lot of times they're
Yeah.
very short. The river rapids rides, you're cooked. You're so wet.
Yeah.
Log flumes, they're not really like that. They're usually more of a little bit of a spritz. They can be long. I mean, I've ridden some long log flumes, which is another plus. I enjoy them.
Yeah. My problem is when riding a log flume, I
Yeah,
walk past the one at Kings Island all the time when we go there. That's the one we go to the most. And it's probably the log flume I've ridden the most, which is a really nice one. It started back in Coney Island before Kings Island was even built and was transported up north. But there's just sometimes you go to the park, I don't feel like walking around wet. I mean,
yeah,
now you walk in your house and in your apartment, and you have your socks on. You walk on a water puddle. You got to yank the sock off because nothing is worse than walking around with a wet sock. Now, obviously, unless you're wearing flip flops or something, you're wearing tennis shoes to go to the park. You're riding a water ride. It's going to get wet, or all your clothes for that matter. I wonder, and we talked about this a little bit last week as well, if some of these water attractions, log flumes or the rapids rides, if they were somehow attached to a water park that was attached to the water park, Soak City, for instance, at Kings Island, or any number of parks that have water dry side and wet side. If they were to have lines that could cue from the water park, would it add a new lease on life to some of these water attractions? What are your thoughts?
I don't know. That's an interesting idea for sure. Some parks that have their water park and dry park combined, like Kentucky Kingdom or Six Flags America, there's not really like a water park section and a dry park section. There's like, here's three water slides next to each other. Here's some roller coasters. Here's three water slides next to each other. At those parks, it's already kind of like that. And I do think I agree with you. I don't like being wet that much. Everything you said, and I think that's what you hear a lot of people say too. But I also know water rides get crazy lines. Like Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown always has a line. Congo
Hmm.
Falls has awesome capacity. So it usually doesn't have a line that's. I mean, literally, Congo Falls has like 700 rider per hour capacity. It's amazing. So it usually doesn't have too bad of a line, but it still gets a line in the summer. Thunder Canyon, same way. Whitewater Canyon. I don't really understand why that's true, because I feel like in conversation everyone's like, "Oh, I don't want to get wet," but I don't know. Maybe people. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. In a park like Kings, I don't know how some others are. Cedar Point probably has a. You could make a case that some of the water rides could be close enough to the water park to be joined on that, but a park like Kings Island, you can make an argument that Whitewater Canyon or the name's escaping me. The
Race
log
for Your Life, Charlie Brown. Yeah.
That one. That there could be a line queue that starts from the water park. It would be a long line queue, but it's there's not other parts of the park that butt up to it. It's not like you have to go from the Whitewater Canyon and all of a sudden you have to walk through all the beasts or another part of the park. It butts right up to the water park. So you can make a case that they could do that, but at the same time, it'd be a long queue.
Yeah, it would. It's possible.
I actually like Whitewater Canyon. I like the rapids rides, but at the same time, you ride that, you are not getting off there dry.
Yeah,
you're gonna. It's either gonna be your last ride of the day, or you're not gonna ride it at all.
Yeah, true. Or you, like, maybe you're planning on going to the water park immediately after, or something.
Or you don't care.
Yeah, that's a great reason. And I think that's why, like, Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown is so popular. But I do think at Busch Gardens, Tampa, the plot of land that Stanley Falls sat on, it was kind of in between, like, Shikra and Kumba. Well, in between, like, Shikra, Kumba, and, like, what is now Scorpion, or what was Scorpion. So what I'm really curious to know, this is hard to, maybe I should pull it up on Google Earth and just check, because this has an objective answer. Is this land that where this water ride is, it feels like in my mental map of the park that it would butt up to where Scorpion used to butt up. And now that Scorpion's gone and this is gone, there might be a really big plot of land there. Like, new land plot. Like, big plot of land. I don't know. But I do wonder if the closures of those two rides could maybe be related. Because
something's coming.
Could be their Giga Coaster that they teased on their annual pass holder website. I would be so okay with it.
I'm sure you would.
All right, David. Well, we have a very special guest this week. If you are a coaster enthusiast and you're watching this podcast, I would not be surprised, because you're in a good place. But you've certainly no doubt heard of the American Coaster Enthusiasts, ACE, and today we are lucky enough to welcome the president of ACE, a person who, might I add, raised her children to be coaster enthusiasts. It's a family affair. Welcome to the show, Miss Elizabeth. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thanks for having me on the podcast today. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for coming on. Honestly,
love talking coasters.
Yes. I have a feeling it's just going to be like a tennis match for me, because Clete, we were bringing up some images of, it's just some news we'll get into probably not with you on, but later on. And I just brought up a random picture of a coaster, and he automatically just names out of thin air. I have a feeling I'm just going to be going back and forth watching the tennis match on this, because I might know what the name of the coaster is, maybe the park, but I would need to Google search it and look at the picture. It might take me an hour. Clete had it in like 2 seconds.
No.
So we'll see where this goes. I might just end up watching a bunch. But no, thank you for coming on. All right, Elizabeth. So how long, you just give us a little bit of a background of your professional journey, how long you've been with ACE, how did you start out as president? Because you're president of ACE. Did you start out that way, or did you rise up through for a few years? And what did you do previous to it?
So professionally, I started my career as a therapist. It was a starting point for where I really landed. I would really say is my career was in luxury product sales. That's where I spent most of my years and where my passion really lied. And I've been happy to be able to bring that to ACE. Now, that all started with ACE long before I was president. I moved to Virginia from Cincinnati. Kings Island was my home park where I found out that I was an enthusiast. And when I moved to Virginia, I found out that there was a hole in my life. ACE wasn't active here. I didn't have my community anymore. And so I set myself on a path to use those same sales skills and build ACE's community here and bring people together. And that's what I always did in sales too. It was about bringing people together. And so I've just continued that with an ACE. I volunteered while I continued to work and was the regional rep for the Mid Atlantic for many, many years. And have since passed that on to my husband. So it stayed in my house, but it's not my own anymore. He is very passionate and loves his opportunity to make it, take it to the next level and do things differently than I did and find the new path for ACE Mid Atlantic of what it looks like today. But volunteering as regional rep, I had so many amazing opportunities. I loved the members here and all the fun we were having. And as that time evolved, I was invited to join the executive committee of ACE as the communications director. And that was 7 years ago now. And served as communications director for 4 years under Robert Ulrich as president. And when Robert's 4 years ended, I decided to run for president myself. It was a unique phase of life I was in. My kids were transitioning into college. I was becoming an empty nester. I left my career a few years ago to be more present while my kids were in high school, and have enjoyed this transition time of getting to give most of my days to ACE before I go back to work, now that my kids are all out of the house.
Awesome. So many coaster enthusiasts have some key moment. They have some like story, like this is how it happened. This is how I became a coaster enthusiast. This is when I knew I loved coasters. Something to that effect. What did that look like for you? How did you fall in love? Go from I like coasters to this is the thing for me.
So it happened a few weeks after my husband and I moved to Cincinnati. I had just graduated college and was starting my first job and didn't know a soul. And my husband Evangelist and I found that we really enjoyed going up to Kings Island at night after work.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty much our regular routine as we go walk around the park, get last ride of the night on the Beast, whatever was happening. But those weeks and months reminded me of my childhood and left me laughing, honestly, because I would think about my trips to Carowinds as a child. I didn't get to go, I went once a year. It was the annual trip. And usually 2 or 3 of my friends would go with my parents and I. And I kept reminiscing and remembering that my friends would be sitting on the bench with my parents at the end of the night. And I would be saying, come on, people, the park is still open. Why are you not riding? I just don't understand why you're not riding.
Yes.
My poor friends. I still think of them often and what I must have put them through. But I knew as a child I was different. I just didn't know what that different meant. Those weeks that we had first moved to Cincinnati made me realize that there was a community there. Hadn't found it yet. I didn't find it until the next spring. In 1999, ACE was on the news, and something just told me I found my people. And that truly is it. I found my people. That I wasn't weird.
There's others just like you. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, just a dumb question. When you talk about the Beast, you reminisce riding the Beast. Just off question. Do you remember the first time you rode it?
I do. We were visiting Cincinnati for a house hunting trip. To relocate, and we went to the park on our house hunting trip. Not being enthusiasts and not being big park goers, it was interesting. I thought that we were drawn to that on that very short house hunting trip, but that was our relief from all the pressure. And I remember that first ride, and I thought, wow, I have never seen anything like this before.
Yeah, which is true.
I remember the first time I rode it, I used to be terrified of roller coasters, and I was well into my 20s, at least late teens. I don't remember. First time I rode the Beast, I'm going to say it was 94 or 95. 1994, 95, 20, 21 years old. And the first time I rode it was at night in the fog, which for my money was probably the best time to ever ride it. And that was years ago, like a really long time ago. And we're getting to the days and the evenings where there's going to be fog at night. And I have tried to recreate that moment a lot. Just remember what that's like. This is the best ride ever because it's foggy out, it's dark, you don't know what's coming up next. And I have, there's the way it was the first time I rode it, and I haven't been able to replicate it since.
And that's
But
it. That first ride, there's nothing like it. And even when it doesn't have those special circumstances, it's that unknown. And that's something I work hard at, is not watching POVs or anything, because I think as an adult, you so rarely get a surprise that I really savor that surprise of the first ride. Just what you said. You don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is like, as a coaster enthusiast, as I spend unbelievable amounts of time, like, trying to figure out, we all do, right? What's next at this park? What's next here and all this? And like when Verbolten opened, if you don't want any spoilers, go ahead and mute your microphone for a few seconds. But when Verbolten opened, everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, it's gonna have a drop track. This is crazy." And we saw, oh, this is crazy. But and that's awesome. It was so cool to be a part. Like I remember when the world learned that. But also then when I rode Verbolten for the first time, I was like, "Oh, here's the drop track," which has its pros and cons, of course, but still totally worth it to me. I think. I don't know.
So Elizabeth, let's talk about Ace for a second.
So I joined Ace in the year 2000, maybe late 1999. So I've been a member I'm just wrapping up the first year of my second term. So I have one more year to go as president, and then I will have maxed out my ability to serve as president because we do have term limits. I could return, but I'll be serving as immediate past president, and I'm looking forward to that next phase of service to Ace in a different way. And so I think unless something changes after I retire, my next focus is serving as an advisor and an assistant and at the beck and call of the president and getting back to my personal career.
So one of Ace's mission statements, Ace's mission statement, it mentions conservation and preservation, and we were, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Lakemont Park right now and Leap the Dips, and because that's such a real life right now topical example. What sort of things does Ace do in a situation like this, where it's like Leap the Dips, one of the most historical, important coasters in the U.S.? It looks like, oh, all right.
Hey.
Maybe has an uncertain future. And in that commitment to conservation and preservation, what is the role of Ace there exactly?
So here we want to maintain still being a partner to the park that owns the coaster, to anyone interested in operating. We want to be an assistant to them. We don't want to advance our own personal desires as an enthusiast. As hard as that is, we all have our personal wishes. But that's where it's about circling back on our mission and making sure we're meeting our mission and being a good partner. We don't want to force anybody into anything, but we do want to be a partner to try to get that coaster open again. And sadly, this isn't the first time Ace has been involved at that park. If anyone wrote it in recent years, there was an acknowledgement to all that Ace had done through the years there. And we donated funds, we volunteered, we assisted it anyway. And that's really where we still stand, that we are happy to help match people in conversations and advance any conversations. We are happy to make donations. If the amount of money we can donate would make any significant difference, we would in the blink of an eye. And just being a partner and a support for them in trying to make sure that the coaster has a long life ahead of it.
Yeah, awesome.
Now, for that particular coaster, would that be preserving it at its current location, or would that be meticulously dismantling it and moving elsewhere?
We're willing to work with whatever opportunities arise.
Okay. I think one of the sad things was a number of years ago, the Big Dipper at Geauga Lake sat on the park for years. And I think there's some efforts to try to dismantle that and move it. I'm not an expert in that by any stretch, but it was just unsuccessful. And I think enough people try to enter the park and climb on the coaster, and Cedar Fair's finally said, that's it. No one's going to get it, and people are just it's going to create a lawsuit. So they demolished it. But it's sad that that coaster is not able to find, even parts of it were able to be removed and reassembled elsewhere.
Right.
Has there been? Yeah. Was there any kind of effort on ACE at that time that you're aware of? Because that is before you were president, but to try and do that.
And that was before I was involved even as a volunteer as well. So I wasn't
Okay.
really privy to all that went on. But I know that our past president, Carol Sanderson, was on site multiple times fighting for its continuation in the world and to continue to offer riders the thrills, because that's one that I'm sad that riders today don't get to experience. And for me, that's where I think my passion matches Ace so well, is that for me, every time we ride a roller coaster, particularly those much older ones like Big Dipper, it's about reliving history. You might be with different people, different environments, different weather conditions, right? But you're reliving history and you're really experiencing the roots of what technology is, not just in roller coasters, but in the world. I think about the people that sat in that seat when that coaster was new and what it must have been like for them, and then to share it again with their children, their grandchildren, and generations to come.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a situation like that, where leaving the coaster on site just was not an option, if someone was going to take it, it had to be dismantled and moved. Was that is something with that age, that kind of age, is something like that even possible to move elsewhere, or would you pretty much have to do a section by section replica?
No, I'll be honest, I have no idea. I don't have the background to have an idea, but I know that there's lots of people in the industry that are continuously trying to figure out the answers to that question. And what are the possibilities? What are the options to keep widening the breadth of the options to keep this coaster offering riders the thrills it did?
Yeah. Yeah, and I do think, to your point, if we're all honest with ourselves, right? It's so good that the amusement industry exists, and that it is, when it's thriving, that's good for everybody. It's good for all of us. It's good for the parks. It's good for the employees. And when it comes down to like, occasionally you'll have a new attraction built or whatever it is, and there's the coaster enthusiast maybe is like, come on, why didn't you do this or that or whatever? But at the end of the day, these are businesses that are businesses first, and that are really, really good. Like, they're really good for their communities, for you specifically if you're a coaster enthusiast out there, but for their employees, for the families that rely on them to make good decisions for their and yeah, I think that's like something that does get overlooked sometimes. But I'm glad that's really cool to think about that as well.
I'm glad you pointed that out, because that is the real fact, is these are businesses and they have to turn a profit. They aren't about, while they are in the business of fun and making memories and all the things that we garner from going to an amusement park, the fact at the end of the day is it's a business, and we have to respect the fact that they have to make business decisions. And while on the outside it might look like they're pleased with the decision, I'm sure there's people just like we sit with our heart hurting. They're sitting with their heart hurting too, because they had to make a tough decision.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. So, Elizabeth, in our podcast, we do often get into the business sides of the park. It kind of seemed like we were doing a natural pivot to that. More the operational side, and from an organizational standpoint, for people that may be listening, what is ACE's value to a park or even a coaster manufacturer? What sort of things does ACE bring to the table on that?
My goal for ACE is that we are a partner, that we create a support system and enhance what the park is already doing. I love when we're able to bring extras to them that they might not be able to do internally. But part of that is making sure we stay on focus of our mission, that it also advances ACE's mission, because we would be doing a disservice to our members if we weren't keeping conservation, preservation, and our membership at the top of our focus. But offering parks things like riders with smiling faces for media days to make sure they have full trains that look most beautiful on the early morning news as that sunrise is coming up over a new coaster, but also sharing their news and sharing our unique perspectives and what makes us a coaster enthusiast. Eh, One thing I think is always important for ACE is advancing the idea of a hobby, not just riding roller coasters. While that's our thing, we have a public voice that comes out to many people, whether they might not ever be a coaster enthusiast, they went to the park once. We might have the opportunity to speak with them about just having a hobby in their life and how that brings healthiness to you, and another aspect of keeping yourself at your best.
I like that a lot. I really do.
Does ACE do meetups?
We do. We do.
Okay, I thought they did. So, but
Yep.
that's also another way to help operations because you bring. What's the average size of a meetup that you go to or that you host?
They are all over the place. Literally, it could be 3 people or it could be 200. We never know what to expect. We host informal meetups. Many of our regions do. That's something that's done on the regional level, which is our chapter system. And our regions host informal meetups because it's not for us, it's not about the volume, it's about providing that opportunity for people to come together and socialize and talk about their passion and enhance their hobby by using the community and having a community provided for them. I'm a very shy person. I take a long time to warm up in a conversation. And for me, those informal meetups start an easier conversation that I can build my personal small group community and have those closer friendships that I'm able to develop by providing that smaller group experience. So many of them are very small, but they might also be for unique attractions. Maybe it's a women's meetup for Beer Fest at Beschreins Waynesburg, or it might be to experience Halloween mazes at one of the parks because Halloween's not for everybody, right? And so an informal meetup lets those Halloween enthusiasts come together. It's about bringing those people together on a different level. We're all enthusiasts, but thinking about what that next level of where our enthusiasm is. If you're a photographer, if you're a Halloween enthusiast, if you're a beer enthusiast, whatever that aspect of the park you enjoy on the next level of roller coasters is where we really try to focus those informal meetups and bring those individuals together to build their community.
Awesome. Awesome. So, looking back on your time as the president of ACE, what has been something you're proud of having accomplished, or a major challenge you faced?
So I own it. I am a process person. I believe in strong infrastructure and accountability. That has just been something that has been part of my brand forever. Um, and that's what I brought to ACE. So I'm most proud of seeing where my skills could help ACE the best. And that's what I really dedicated my time as president, was focusing on what I brought uniquely that another president might not have, so that they can bring what they do best. And making sure we have a strong infrastructure. As we approach our 50th anniversary, I keep thinking that I want to see us get to 100 years. I want my kids and hopefully myself, but you know, that's quite a that's a lifespan. But I want my kids to be there to celebrate the 100th anniversary of ACE. And making sure that we have a strong infrastructure is where I have to follow my heart to know that without a strong infrastructure in this busy world and constantly changing times, we have got to have clean processes with written documentation, we have to have standard operating procedures, clear roles and responsibilities so people know what their obligations are in their role, and making sure that we have a checks and balance system, that we have security in how our funds are dispersed, how our time is dispersed, and how we advance our mission.
Awesome. Important, really important stuff.
And
so as you, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so along those lines, a little bit of that infrastructure for me was revamping our youth advisory committee. I wanted to make sure the youth of ACE got to have a strong voice. Sometimes I watched it be hard for young people to serve on a committee and receive the same respect of their opinion that others brought to the committee meeting or the group discussion. And I wanted to make sure our youth had a voice. So I revamped it to make sure it had an intentional purpose and that they got to contribute and really learn about what leadership meant, specifically servant leadership, because ACE is a servant leadership organization. Some may have heard that word in regards to the Hershin family system. We in ACE follow that same exact philosophy that it's about serving the greater good, not ourselves.
Awesome. Very cool. Now, when you say you work with students, you have do you have student chapters? Is that high school level? Is that college level?
No, our youth advisory committee is a panel of our members who apply. It's a 1-year term, and they apply to be part of it. And then we choose a variety based on different aspects of each individual to put together a well-rounded, diverse group from different areas of the world and different expertise, different numbers of coasters written, all different factors, to let them come together monthly in some social conversation to build them that as their own community, to have their friends, but also to teach them about ACE's infrastructure and ask them questions. As our leaders come on, each month we have a speaker from our volunteer pool, and I encourage them to always bring questions that they want to learn from our youth, whether it's what do you want to see in our merchandise, or what would you like our social media to be, or what do you think about the new gaming piece to our website, and how would you like to structure the point system. So we want to get their input using their youth and making sure we're developing a club that fits them so that they will stay in ACE and celebrate the 50th and then the 100th anniversary.
Nice. So, Elizabeth, when you look at the trends that are happening just in North America, because we could go to every continent and talk about it if you wanted to, but just looking at North America right now, what are your what do you think are some of the big trends, the exciting trends that are happening right now? And as an enthusiast and a leader, what is your take on the current state of the roller coaster design? So, what are you seeing the trends, and what's your thoughts on the designs of them?
Yeah, the word that keeps coming to my mind is innovation and rethinking. I think the parks are continually reassessing, and that's what creates success, right? Is reassessment.
Mhm.
Making sure that they're meeting the needs of their riders today, but instilling a solid quality, rewritable product that can keep delivering good rides long term. They're making good investments. And that's what I'm excited to see most. But personally, I'm most happy to see that some of the rides that the other parts of the world have had for years are starting to venture their way into the United States.
Like the new generation Vacomas, right? Like
yes,
yes, okay.
yeah. Yes. And, I know it might not be the popular opinion for coaster enthusiasts, because just like y'all, I love the biggest and the fiercest. But in my opinion, the diversification of the ride portfolio is really important. We're seeing the world today needs those opportunities for families to come together, all generations to enjoy something together. And that's becoming more and more difficult to find. And I feel like we are that in ACE, and the industry is that as well for the world, that it's all about different generations and expanding the flat rides and getting excited about new innovations in flat rides and lower height restrictions are really critical. And we're seeing that as a trend, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay. We've been hiding the fact that you have recently just gotten back from Europe, where you rode mini coasters, and I need to know everything.
This is where amazing. I'm going to sit back and I'm just going to watch the tennis match go back and forth.
I did just a few days ago. I got back from an almost 3-week trip to Europe. Wow. It was my first opportunity to visit European amusement parks. While I'd been to Europe before, I hadn't gotten to go to any parks on that trip. So this was unique for me to have a first experience of European amusement parks. And wow, I I was blown away. I was impressed. I just couldn't get enough. It was amazing. I can't lie. I've been home. I think I've been home 5 days, and I'm already plotting in my head when and how can I afford to go back to Europe.
Yes, that is the coaster enthusiast life, of course. Yes.
I just didn't get enough. It was incredible. The whole purpose of the trip was totally fun. A fellow ace empty nester couple invited my husband and I to join them on a Viking cruise. And so we did the empty nester welcome to older person life thing, and we did a Viking cruise and added on parks on each end of that trip.
Amazing. So what parks did you get to visit?
So we started our trip at Europa and ended the after the cruise we visited Effling Park and
Nice.
Phantasialand and Plopsaland,
Oh my God.
Deutschland.
Okay,
Wow.
Phantasialand. Am I pronouncing that right?
As to my ability, yes, but my
Okay.
pronunciation of the European language is a little southern.
So my experience with roller coasters or theme parks in Europe, for that matter, is very limited because I've never been to Europe. But there's a roller coaster that I've ridden on YouTube called Terran.
Of
Is that the right
course,
part?
yes. Oh my God.
Okay.
Yes, that's right.
It looks like an incredible roller coaster from pictures and from the POVs you take on YouTube. But is it as good in person? And I'm assuming you wrote it. Is it as good in person as it is on screen?
Oh, it did
Or
not
better?
disappoint. It not at all. And I will say I didn't know much about it. I didn't do a lot of research on the parks other than just making sure that knew how many coasters there were and I didn't miss
Mm-hmm.
any because there's a lot of hidden pockets. I felt like at some of the parks I could have missed an entire section of the park and not realized it because it's so immersively themed that there's pathways
Yes.
everywhere. There's hidden gems everywhere, and that's what was different for me in the European parks was how immersive it was to just be in the park. Not the park itself, but literally the little area I was in.
Why
So
is it that you go ahead?
Fantasyland, Terran, of course. Yes. Oh my gosh, looks so great. But what about Fly? Was
I knew Fly had won the Innovation Award,
uh-huh.
and so I had high expectations for it, not gonna
Right.
lie. I expected it to be an incredible ride. What I didn't expect was it to be an incredible experience.
Yeah, the city they built around it, right? Like
Yeah, it was, you were fully immersed in the world of Fly. And I took that to the next level. I stayed at the Charles Lindbergh Hotel, which if you're going to Phantasialand for Fly, I highly recommend it. It was worth the pretty penny because I never basically had to leave the park. Fly literally flew by my window every time it went. It was just it was that's it. But Fly, I don't want to ruin any surprises because since you go through the metal detector, there's a lot of surprises that you haven't gotten to see in Fly because there's no cameras in the station.
yeah.
And so it just blew me away because I had such high expectations, I didn't think it could exceed them. And it
Yeah.
actually did.
Wow. Okay. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
It's
But
a dumb question. Why do you think that the European parks have just the level of immersion? And again, I've never been, but I've seen pictures. I figure I'm probably not, maybe I'll get to visit them, but probably not. I don't like flying over large bodies of water, but it seems like their parks are a lot more immersive than here in the States. I mean, there's some amusement parks. They call themselves theme parks, but they're really amusement parks. It's concrete and rides and some landscaping. But literally, and a lot of times, theming is it's a roller coaster, has some props in the line queue. But other than that, like you said, this roller coaster has an entire city built that you go through. Why do you think that? Why does it seem so much more immersive overseas?
and that was what I kept pondering my whole trip. And I kept wondering how they track or know their return on investment for that to take it to that next level of theming. I mean, just fully immersive, can't see other areas of the park. Massive walls. I mean, this is not a few props and a queue line.
Mm-hmm.
These immersive experiences are probably costing the same, and in some cases maybe more than the actual ride itself that they're installing.
Yeah.
They are making major investments, and I'm curious how they track that ROI, that it's worth it. But I think we're starting to see that trend, not at that level, obviously, but we're starting to see more of that in the United States. And I hope that the parks here can see that that investment is worth it, and that park goers stop and appreciate it, of how it does change the experience completely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It does.
But I do think we are seeing that trend. I think you're right. If you look at, like, we talked about Carowinds earlier, if you look at the difference between Copperhead Strike and Fury 325, it's big. Like, Fury 325 has theming, but it's mostly just colors. It's cool. I mean, it's like it's a space, but also hornets. It's cool. But like, Copperhead Strike tells a story. And
Exactly.
that's always good to see. Yeah.
And that's the difference. I think the European park goer appreciates and slows down and notices that story. And that's what struck me most at Effling. While honestly, all four of the parks had immense theming, even Plopsaland, while it's a small regional park, it had theming that exceeded what I expected of theming. I was expecting more of a typical American amusement park, and I did not find that. I found a theme park. But Effling, while it wasn't about the big walled structures and not seeing the other areas of the park, no, it was because they're trees. There's so many trees at Effling that you're walled off from the other areas of the park because there's just this natural growth. It was amazing how many trees and just how lush it was. I know that's also the environment that I live in Virginia, and it's dry and hot, so
Mhm.
it's not as lush. But I found the parks lush, but Effling took a story, and that storyline tied through not just the park, but all the way back to my hotel room. I stayed at the Wonder Hotel on the resort property, and those tiny touches of that storyline were tied together from my room into the park. And that's immersion, right? And that's what creates memories and more special feelings and helps us be more present in the moment and really appreciate where we are, that we're never letting our minds venture back to the real world.
Yeah, that's so cool. That is so cool. Okay, so Plopsaland, Ride to Happiness.
No, wrong Plopsaland. So the Plopsaland I was at is, you probably know as Holiday Park.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, cool.
I didn't know that Plopsaland had bought the park until I went on RCDB. Plopsaland was a late addition to our trip. We had finished at Europa. We hit the jackpot of days at Phantasialand, not Europa, but we there was no lines. I don't know where the people were, but they weren't in line. And so we had literally reached our satisfaction level after 2.5 days that we didn't need our last morning. So we, on our way to the airport, yes, we did this. On the way to the airport, we diverted our trip and went to Plopsaland, formerly Holiday Park. When we went on RCDB, found out that Plopsaland had recently purchased the park and it's undergoing a expansion and revamp under its new owners.
So, okay, this is still great though. Instead of asking about Ride to Happiness, I'll just ask about Expedition G-Force. That's fine.
So I wish I could speak to that. Unfortunately, it was down on the day I was there.
Oh, that's all right. That's too bad. Well, now you have to go back.
Exactly. And they have a new coaster that looks fantastic. The theming looked great from the midway of just looking around at the new coaster. So I'm happy to have two reasons to go back to that park. And it was also just a great little regional experience. It was different than the other three parks in that it was more regional. I noticed there was much fewer English speakers. It may have just been me in the park, and there was less catering to the American audience than were just the English speaking audience than I saw at the other three parks. It was definitely easier to navigate conversations at the other three parks than it was at Plopsaland, but I still felt very welcome, and I wasn't shamed for my very southern English that I speak, and I just appreciated the chance to experience the park for a couple of hours on the way to the airport.
Awesome. Awesome. Wow, that's so funny. Okay, so we've ventured a lot of places, but we gotta talk a little bit about your personal favorites as a coaster enthusiast. Um, so maybe throw this around to everybody here, but it's okay. Here's a great one. What is one coaster in the United States or globally? Globally, let's go there. That you think just is not appreciated enough, deserves a little bit more spotlight, a little bit more love from the greater coaster community.
So I'll say Europe is top of my mind right now, right? I haven't
Okay.
even finished fully processing my trip.
Yeah.
So this one might just show my ignorance or lack of attention in conversations sometimes, but somehow I had never heard of Wudan, which is a wooden coaster at Europa.
Yeah. Woden, yeah.
How did
GCI.
I miss this existed?
I,
It was fantastic. It was
okay.
it was one of those great woodies. But again, it came back to the immersion of the theming. The statues turning their heads as you
Mm.
exit, enter the station, and go Europa. There is a restroom in the queue line.
Oh, nice. Always good.
I wish more did that.
Me too. It was great.
Cool. Okay. Woden Timber Coaster. That's exciting. David, what about you?
Yeah, I've got two. Trying to think of that. Jackrabbit at Kennywood.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Honestly, because it's history. It's how long's it been op? Is it over 100 years it's been operating? Do I have that right? And it's just the way coasters used to operate, and it's just one of those unique experiences. You know, when you're getting on it, it came before all the metal coasters, seal coasters, and it's got a lot of history packed into it. But I think another one, and I wouldn't say this is underrated because I think it's highly rated. It's just not as many people have been able to ride it as they should. Is Voyage at Holiday World. Now we talk about the first time you rode a roller coaster, had no idea what to expect on that. Rode it at night, first time riding that one, and you talk about surprise elements at every turn and intense from the time you went down the first hill till the time you got back in the station. Not underrated by any stretch, but at the same time, it because of where Holiday World is located at, it's if you were just to stick a pin in the United States, it's in a good location. But if you're in Atlanta, it's not really on your way anywhere. If you're in Los Angeles, it's flyover country. So I would say that is not as hasn't been ridden as much as it should be.
Agreed. And
Okay.
have you ridden it since they retracked it and did so much work the last 2 years?
Last time I rode it was in June.
Okay, so you got to experience this year's.
Yeah.
Wow, the work they did on it is incredible, isn't it?
It is a great, like I said, surprise elements at every turn, and it's great. It's one of those where you get knocked around, like let's go back and ride that again.
Mhm.
I would have to
So
say I'm going to answer this question with a coaster that is very similar to the Voyage, but is very much not the Voyage. That is Hades 360.
oh
Um,
yes,
I think
one
people talk about the Voyage a lot. I feel like Hades is just as good as the Voyage in a lot of ways. For me, I personally prefer Hades 360. Actually, the what I mean, it's ridiculous. The pre-lift section is fantastic. I love that it has timber liners. The whole
going
tunnel
into the parking
part.
lot. Yeah,
Oh, the tunnel part is, and you can't see. You know, it's wonderful. And then
good
of
pick.
course that inversion is a wonderful. You know, it's cool. It's always just cool to go
Yeah.
upside down on a wooden coaster. So I absolutely adore Hades 360. I think that one. I think it's a top 5 discussion for myself. So
I love it. I rode it the first time this summer, and I will say I got off going, "What just happened?" And that's how I know I love the coaster.
yeah, exactly.
So Elizabeth, how about this one? And I'll toss this out to everybody. Also, if you can only ride one more coaster in your lifetime, if you just you're breaking apart with your bone structure, you can only ride one more. What coasters is going to be and why? I'm closer to that than anybody else, but
Yeah.
so which
I
one?
think This was one that we talked about earlier. I think you might be able to guess it. For me, it's the Beast. It's always the Beast. Some
Okay.
come close. Some could be like, yeah, that one could be it, but it's a hands down. It's the Beast.
Okay.
All right, I like that.
Clete, how about you?
Wow. Oh my gosh, I don't know. All right. To be honest, though, the answers are Pantherion and Intimidator 305. I've never ridden it, and it's just like I'm a huge intensity fan, huge Intamin fan, huge like aggressiveness fan. A coaster cannot be too aggressive. That's my opinion anyway. And Intimidator 305, Pantherion has that reputation. I went to King's Dominion for the first time this year. It was closed. It was closed for a lot of the summer. So if I just need to make sure I get on it, and if that's the only way I can do it, so be it.
I got to go with either Hagrid's or Guardians of the Galaxy, whichever one has a shorter line. Both those.
Whichever one has a shorter line. Okay, all right.
So how about? Go ahead, Clete.
Oh, I was just keep talking about Guardians and Hagrid. If you had
no, it's just no. They're no. I was going on to something different. I was going to say beyond coasters. What's your favorite type of attraction?
Oh,
so for me, it's flume rides, log flumes.
Okay,
but
it's so funny. We were even done with it.
But some days I just can't stand the idea of being wet.
Yeah.
I just can't. I don't do cold well at all. And if it's a little chilly in the air, I'm like, I'm gonna have to pass up that flume, but I just can't do it for my mental sake. I don't do cold well, and I don't do wet well on a cold day. So it depends on the day if it's the flume. But I love flume rides. But I always have a soft spot for top spins, carousels, and madhouses. I'm a big fan of madhouses, and I was in heaven in Europe because they're huge there. Why don't we have more madhouses in the United States? How about you?
I would say just a good old dark ride. Can't go wrong, especially a shooting dark ride. Super fun. Blue Blasters. I grew up with, and that's a great one. Rest in peace. But yeah. Shooting dark rides. Men in Black. Oh my gosh, I love Men in Black.
Oh, yes. We still have Blue Blasters at King's Dominion, so there is a Blue Blasters living on.
Terrorwinds is still alive too.
Yes.
Are they similar layouts to what the one in Kings Island was? Okay.
Yeah.
I got to go with the carousel.
Oh.
Because a lot of them have there's some new carousels that come up, but not very often. And a lot of the old ones, they don't have the prefabbed horses on there. They're actually custom made. We had someone from the Merry-Go-Round Museum in Sandusky was on the podcast earlier in the spring, and just some of the history and the intricacies that goes into all these. It's just amazing. And every time you ride one, you're part of history. Yeah. So I got to go with the carousel.
I like that.
One thing that ACE brings in our partnership with parks is recognition. And this year, I was honored to have many of our volunteers come together to create a new award that they saw that we needed to give a shout out and to coasters that were over 100 years old. So this year, we presented our very first ever Centennial Award, and it went to Belmont Park's Big Dipper, and they will have this beautiful plaque. It's beautiful in my opinion. I'm not biased, to display at the coaster so that, like rewriting those older coasters with family members from generations, we hope that it will help people to stop and recognize how important the coaster is that they are riding right then, and really be present. Maybe even start a queue line conversation about, wow, this coaster is 100 years old. I didn't know that there was 100-year-old coasters. We hope that it'll be a point that people will stop and treasure what's happening at their local park or the park they're visiting. And this just adds to our already dynamic lineup of recognition. We already have a classic coaster recognition that applauds coasters that still operate in their original way that coasters operated, not in the specifically that coaster, but the way coasters started without the center in the bench seat, all those treasures that we talk about, like the Jackrabbit, what we know of what a coaster was in the early days, people that have maintained those. But we also have the Ace roller coaster landmarks. And those are something, while we can't present the coaster classics anymore because we're losing more than we're gaining. We're not gaining any. But the roller coaster landmarks let us applaud coasters that have been significant to roller coaster development and history. Now, one of them we talked about King's Dominion, the Racer 75. That's where Ace started, and so that is a roller coaster landmark for what it brought to industry and Ace. Loch Ness Monster at Busch Gardens Williamsburg hosted the very first ever CoasterCon 1 ERT session. That's a roller coaster landmark, but many others. This summer we presented the American Scream Machine with one during CoasterCon, and we are keeping this in active recognition. Again, the same idea for park goers to stop and go, wow, I didn't know that. Did you know that? And build community, build knowledge, education, and help preserve those rides and the importance that they bring to our experiences in parks every day.
Awesome.
I got a dumb question. Maybe we include this, maybe not, but because we brought up that there's a Jackrabbit at Kennywood. Why is it that it seems like parks back in the historical parks in their old roller coasters? Why does it seem like everybody had a Jackrabbit?
I wonder that same thing. And why was everything dips? Dip the dips, sleep the dips. Dips was really popular too. Jackrabbit and dips. I wonder if it was just that's what it reminded them of, was a rabbit hopping. You know, you think about Jackrabbit at Kennywood.
Yeah,
Sorry,
Bunny Hills. There we go.
Right, Bunny Hills. That maybe it's just what it reminded them of in their daily life. But
yes,
the names are confusing though.
Right. I was at work one day, and there was a gentleman who had a roller coaster on his phone background screen, and I was like, "Is that Jackrabbit at Seabreeze? Like, I live in Orlando. Like, what in the world?" And it was, and that was the greatest interaction I've ever had with a person.
Jackrabbit at Seabreeze. Of course, you would know that, Clete.
That's crazy, though. Like, what? But
right, but that's what brings us together and makes memories, right? You really remember that interaction, and he probably does too, because I'm sure he was floored that not only that you knew what coaster it was, but that it was being discussed in Florida.
Right. Well, cool. Thank you so much for your time, for patronizing our little podcast. And
yes.
we hope to have you back sometime to talk about whatever is up new and is up next in the coaster world.
Absolutely. And I hope to see you all in a park soon. And if you are interested in one of the ACE events, don't forget, check out the website. They're all listed. And we love to have people come out and just savor the parks together. That's what it's about, is coming together just like we did today. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my passion, but also fun interaction.
Awesome.
Well, Elizabeth, before we sign off here, is there any upcoming event that you'd like to talk about or promote?
Yeah, I'll give a shout out. It's Halloween season, and the Southeast has an event coming up very soon that is a full immersion experience into haunt. It is a lot of haunt, but it's a really unique event, and we're really excited that Carowinds is hosting it and put together, thinking outside the box, doing something different, and encourage everybody, get out to your local haunts, patronize the parks this fall, but check out the event coming up at Carowinds.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. That was a great interview. That was super fun.
It was.
We aced it.
Yeah. You're not very punny.
Thanks.
No, it was a great interview, and I hope that we head down to IAPA here in a couple months, go to the expo floor, come across their booth, and shock surprise her with another interview. Maybe we'll interview a couple different people from ACE at IAPA.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe we'll come up with like some outlandish, like, what's the What's the fastest launch coaster? Somebody in the comments, let me know. I know the answer.
Ooh.
What is the fastest multi-launched coaster that is not a swing launch? So if it's a multi-launch coaster, like a swing launch, like as in it goes back and forth, like obviously the answer would just straight up be Top Thrill 2 if you counted that as but no, not a swing launch. Has to have more than one launch, so it can't just be like Formula Rosa. What's the fastest coaster that fits those descriptions in the world? Let me give you a hint. We said its name in this video today. That's all. Maybe maybe we'll come up with that random trivia. Start interrogating people at the end at the expo. I don't think they'd like us very much, but that could be fun.
Possibly not. Yeah, but they might get into it. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, thanks for checking out this week on the Attractions Group.